Hello. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Kate and I love books. So as this goes up, tomorrow is going to be International Women's Day, and I thought, I've seen a lot of videos recently where people have put like their top 20 favourite book boyfriends, so I thought I would do a little compilation of my favourite female characters. Full disclosure, I've had a week and a half, so my brain is not really functioning at optimal speed right now. So I actually did already try and film this and just talk about my favourite female characters, and it didn't go very well, guys. I will say I was not concise, clear, didn't really advocate for anything. It would have been better if I just did nothing at all. So I just thought maybe something different would be, I've created a few prompts for myself for different types of female characters. This obviously isn't going to be all of my favourite female characters, and I also think there's a distinction between like favourite stories, favourite arcs, favourite pieces of stories and things like that, and then like the standout characters who have changed my brain chemistry. And again, this is not going to be all of them, obviously, but I just thought it'd be a fun little thing to celebrate some strong women who've impacted my life, fictional or not. These are all going to be the fictional ones. So I thought I'd start with picking like one from each sort of age range that I've been a reader through. I've been a reader for my whole life. I remember when I was younger, I always loved bedtime and story time when my dad would read books to us, and then also I saw the trailer for The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and I was like, oh my goodness, I need to see that film. And my parents were like, we can go and watch it if you read the book first. So I read the book, and ever since then I've just always read the book first, and just I've always been it was locked into me from a young age. So I thought I'd do one, like pick a top standout character that I remember from like ages like 9 to 12, teen years, and then the adult years, like the more recent years. And those will be the first three. So the first one from my youth would probably be Violet Baudelaire from the series of Unfortunate Events. I loved how she was so smart, and that was just the highlight of what was going on. I just wanted to be like her with a little bow in my hair, and they lived in such grim, spooky times, and she just she was awesome and maintained humour and wit and her sense of self and looking after her family and what was important to her throughout, and I loved that. She was my first, like, I want to be like her and like Hermione, you know what I mean? As a teen, wait, I have it here actually, the one that probably most like altered my brain chemistry, where I was like, I want to be like you and I see a lot of myself in this character, was Tessa Gray from The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. I remember reading this, and I'd already read the City of Bones trilogy, or the first half of the City of Bones, and this was just such a different character. This was like, Clary was obviously trained to be like a fighter and to be a part of the Shadowhunter world and to be badass and all of this, and Tessa was very different. It's a different era, so different expectations of women, and then she also wasn't trying to be a fighter, but she stood up for herself. She was a big reader. I loved that. She was in a little love triangle, and she also called these men on their nonsense and told them what was what and respected herself, and she was such a lovely character, and I adored her all through my teen years. I loved her. And then probably the one from my adult life that has stuck with me, a little bit basic, guys, but Nesta. I love Nesta. I've seen, there's obviously a lot of discourse around Nesta. I've seen it. I understand the tensions between what's going on here. I think a lot of people who say they're Nesta girlies see themselves in Nesta, and I don't know that I necessarily see myself in Nesta. If I'm looking at like comparing the characters, I'm probably more like Feyre, maybe even Elaine. Like, I'm definitely like a softer person. And I will try and make anyone feel good at the detriment of myself sometimes. I'm not that feisty, but Nesta reminds me of a lot of my friends and the women that I love in my life, and the women who have been called a bitch and like who people think are cold and hard and uncaring, and they're so not, and they just have like that RBF and people just think they're so cold. And I've seen them grow and learn their self-worth, and I think just Nesta reminds me of a lot of the people that I love. So I love Nesta. Sidebar, I know people are like, they all of a sudden hate Reese in this book. If I was in a situation where someone had been treating the people that I love poorly for a long, long, long time, I would also lose my patience and be at the end of my rope with them. And he did what needed to happen for her to grow. I said it. I don't hate Nesta. I don't hate Reese. I think theirs is an intricate and interesting bond based around the love of the people around them. And I think he didn't, like, I wouldn't have had the patience to keep continuing with her behaviour at the beginning of this. Who would? I mean, like, I've seen people who have to draw lines in the sand when people are being mean. He could have been more compassionate at certain points, and I understand that. And I also understand people losing their patience the same way that she could have been nicer at certain points. People are people. People are human. They aren't even human, but they're human. They make mistakes. I love them both. Okay. Who is most like you? Well, I already kind of said, like, maybe Feyre, but again, fantasy. I don't know if I would say so anymore. I don't think that this character is particularly like me now, but probably a few years ago when I read the book, I really strongly saw myself in none other than Miss Marianne Sheridan. Actually, the first time I read the book, I really felt like I was a lot more like Connell. But every time I read this, I sort of switch between the two. But both of them just, I feel like, see me. They are me on the page. The way that they think, the actions that they take. I'm like, oh, especially me at 20. I was like, yes. Unfortunately, yes. So maybe Marianne or Feyre is what I would say. Maybe Tessa as well from my teen section. The next question that I gave myself, the next prompt, was who would I want to be friends with? Okay. One of the characters in this is called Kissin. She is a god killer. I would want to be her friend. She is like a reluctantly good person. Like, against her will, she is like one of the best people ever, and so loving, so caring, very maternal, despite everything that she presents herself to as the world around her displaying otherwise. I adore her, and I think she's so like, she's got a smart mouth, but she's so sweet. I don't know if that makes sense, but I would probably want to be friends with Kissin or Manon, probably for the same reasons. Like, has a slightly maternal leadership side, has been trained to be ruthless and deadly. They're kind of like that, like, could kill you, but is also a cinnamon bun, both of them. So I think those are the people I would want to be friends with. I have a type. Who would you want to play in a movie or TV adaptation of a book? Okay, so when I was younger, it definitely would have been Gemma Doyle in A Great and Terrible Beauty, the Gemma Doyle trilogy by Libba Bray. I loved her. This is a gothic supernatural fiction book for, I think it is a YA book. Yeah, it's definitely YA. But it was just, this changed my brain chemistry. This was difficult, complex, interesting female relationships. Like, they were all a little bit bratty and annoying at certain points. They all had life or death coming out. I just loved this. So when I was younger, I would have wanted to play Gemma. I'm far too old now, unfortunately, but this was the dream. As an adult, this is actually quite a sore spot for me. So if you didn't know, I went to film school and studied acting. And at the tail end of my film school, I think I'd just graduated, and I read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And at this time, I had the bangs, I had like almost hip length red hair. She says she's tall, and I was like, I can kind of sing. So I was like, I want to play Daisy Jones desperately. This role was made for me. So I went and Googled it, and it had already been cast, and I think it was in the middle of production. It was devastating. I truly, like, it was so delusional. I was like, yes, I am Daisy. I can play Daisy. No. Riley Keough, who actually played Daisy in the actual adaptation, phenomenal. I couldn't have done that. She was incredible. But did I want to with my entire being? Yes. Yes, I did. I love her. She's so flawed and chaotic. She's one of those characters who is just so openly chaotic and destructive, and you can see it through every action and a thought that goes through her brain and word that she uses, that it's like, oh, I see where you are hurting. And I see the pain that you are in. That is like, oh, I loved her. I wanted to be her. However, I'm glad that Riley Keough did it. Keough? Is that how you say her name? I don't know. A female character that changed your brain chemistry. All of them. No, actually. You know who it was? Katniss. Katniss Everdeen. The girl on fire. I probably read these when I was in middle school, and this really like kick-started a new, I think in my lifetime, this kick-started a new resurgence in this particular style of book, this dystopian, and it was never like this. The original was the best. She is so caring, so ruthless, so pragmatic, and scared all through. She's terrified, and I love her dearly, and I care for her, and like I think Katniss definitely changed my brain chemistry and what I like, how I approached the world as I continued growing and became like a citizen of society, you know what I mean? And then another character who actually altered my brain chemistry, specifically from one line that I still think about at least once a week, and I read this probably 10 years ago. These covers are really aging me, but it was The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. The main character is Blue Sergeant, and there is a line in this series where she says, and in that moment she was a little bit in love with all of them. And I think about that consistently, and I think, especially as I was growing up, this is really personal, I think I struggled to navigate the difference between platonic and romantic relationships and what different types of love was and like what place it had in my life and things like that, and that just summed it up for me. Like when Blue said that, I was like, yes, I am a little bit in love with all of them, but it's different. And like, I don't know, that was so personal. I'm so sorry. Okay, this is the last question. I'm not doing a super long video. Again, I had a bit of a week, so it's not really, I'm glad that I'm doing anything, to be completely honest. A character that I aspire to be like, someone who inspires me. I'm probably just going to pick this because I've been reading the series recently, so it's probably very forefront of my brain. But Paige Mahoney from the Bone season is kind of reminds me of like a combination of me and my mum. Like Paige is so pragmatic and brave, which I value and appreciate, and then at the same time so passionate and like living on hope and faith, and I love her, and I think that that's such an inspiring person to look at, especially as she deals with like this series is brutal. She goes through so much. I don't understand how she's still standing through most of the pages, but that's someone who just her default personality, and it's not necessarily self-sacrificing in an annoying way, but it's just very pragmatic and realistic, and I just think she's awesome. And yeah, she's got that Irish heritage, which I vibe with, I relate to, so I love her. So that's probably who I would pick as an inspiring female character. I had so many more books pulled and I just wasn't sure where to start or like how to go through all of this. Again, I did try and film this already and it was just painful. Yeah, just a little fun short video for International Women's Day. If you made it this far in the video, thank you. And if you want to leave this emoji in your comments, that would be lovely. Who are your favourite female characters from like any age? If you have any of these prompts and want to share, please do. I'd love to hear. The comments are always my favourite. I love just talking to people about books. What a nice corner of the internet to be in. Especially like older books, do you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's like you'll find those gems where someone read the same book that you were obsessed with when you were 14 years old. Love that. I love that. I had a chat with another girl a few videos ago in the comments and she was talking about Libba Bray and I was like, my people, I love it. It's so lovely. But yes, and if you wanted to give this video a like or subscribe if you are so inclined, it does help me as I grow my channel. Next week on Tuesday, I think I have a reading vlog going live on Tuesday. Again, my upload schedule is Tuesday and Friday at the moment. So stay tuned. And yeah, thank you again. And I'll see you in the next one.